And at 10, Damien Darhk. Okay, so while not actually destroying the world, if Damien Darhk from Arrow Season 4 didn't have to be defeated for the plot, he would have very well accomplished his goal. The goal being to get all of his loved ones and some savvy investors into a climate-controlled bubble underneath Star City and live there while the world recovers from him launching every single nuke in the world at once using the Rubicon program from Argus. He had obtained the program and launched all the nukes, however Team Arrow, and more specifically Felicity and Curtis, were able to shut down most of them. The deaths from all over the world would have also given Damien immense power, basically making him immortal. His philosophy was that humanity cannot be saved and that the world in fact required a reset in order to save it. And honestly, I think he's probably right. The world is in desperate need of saving, and I'm all for wiping out the entire human race. I'm okay, I swear. And at 9, Nekron. The Blackest Night storyline is probably one of my favorite DC Comics events, with a whole slew of heroes being, for lack of a better term, resurrected using the powers of the Black Lantern rings. Nekron is DC's embodiment of death in a sense, at least if you're not a speedster, and he wanted to eliminate all life in the universe, because like I said, that's what all great villains want, right? Like, what's the point of wiping out the universe? Like, what are you gonna do then? Do all villains just want to die? Like, at least Damien Darhk had a plan on how to keep himself and his family alive. Why would someone want to destroy everything and everyone, including themselves, or leave like nowhere for them to actually rule over? It just makes no sense to me. Like, if there are no living people and they're all just Black Lanterns under your control, would you really feel like you're in charge? I mean, would you really be having fun? Part of the fun of being the villain is having people to kill or control or subject or whatever you want to do, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Either way, Nekron got pretty damn close to seizing control of the universe since, you know, he raised heroes like Superman from the grave. If the White Lanterns didn't exist, he would have won. Let's be honest. And it ate Annihilus. Annihilus is an interdimensional insectoid conqueror and tyrant hailing from the Negative Zone, a pocket dimension located on Earth 616. When Annihilus discovered the opposing force, the Negative Zone's counterpart, the Power Cosmic, after years of long failed conquests, he finally had the power to fulfill his dreams. With an entity named Ravenous, who at the time wielded this power, he invaded the positive matter universe through a portal known as the Crunch. Many worlds and many heroes fell before his Annihilation Wave. The Annihilation Wave was Annihilus's interdimensional invading force. It was an incredibly powerful force which laid waste to galaxies, slaughtered numerous worlds, and captured or killed cosmic beings. So yeah. And Annihilus came close to accomplishing his goal as well, even taking several Galactus heads. Just heads of multiple versions of Galactus. However, he was ultimately unsuccessful, but he came even closer to winning and destroying reality in the What If Annihilation story, which I hope we get to see a version of in the Disney Plus series since it takes place shortly after Civil War.
Coming in number 7, we have Mr. Fear discrediting Daredevil and living the dream. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Fear is a Daredevil villain who operates very similar to Scarecrow. He uses a fear gas to manipulate the people around him. On top of this, he's also a skilled martial artist, so while you're freaking out because you've just been dosed with a fear gas, he'll start beating the turds out of you because you'll be simultaneously pooping out of fear and getting punched in the gut. But Mr. Fear had a goal to ruin the life of Daredevil by tarnishing his reputation as a hero, and he does this, but on the downside he gets arrested, which would be an L if he didn't get one of his buddies to give him a new fear gas that instead of scaring people, it makes them worship him. So he was living in prison like a king, getting anything he wanted, which is kind of a paradise. Looks like this guy pulled off the win on the back end.
And in 6, Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Oh, look at that! I managed to squeeze 2 Flashpoint numbers into this list, hell yeah. In the animated movie The Flashpoint Paradox in the DC animated universe, the world is so much different to its CW counterpart. Mostly due to the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman, who ended up being the villains of this movie, thanks to them being former lovers while Aquaman was married to Mera, who Wonder Woman then killed when Mera tried to get revenge. But to be fair, she also wears Mera's crown, so it's not really like, oh, it was self-defense. However, this war resulted in the destruction of the planet at the literal moment Barry was able to get enough speed to go back into Speed Force. It was a suspenseful moment where Reverse Flash had just been killed by Batman, so Barry could have enough speed to run back and stop himself from saving his mother. I mean, he managed to get into the Speed Force before the world's destruction caught up with him, but the world was still destroyed, so it's good enough for me.
At number 5, we have Deathstroke, also known as Slade Wilson. We have seen this super powerful villain in many different areas of the DC universe. He is known as the most deadliest assassin in the world, so it is no doubt that he is one of the 10 villains to beat Batman down. In short, Deathstroke is basically a super soldier with powers that range from an enhanced mind with the ability for 9 times more than the normal human brain capacity for information, all the way to enhanced strength, reflexes, stamina, speed, healing, The list goes on and on. In Deathstroke number 8 and 9, we see Deathstroke whip Batman into bookshelves until being beaten unconscious. Deathstroke has also, in many other DC media, beaten many other heroes, including the entire Justice League. This guy sounds like the ultimate villain, and I gotta be honest, if I could only be cast as one villain ever, Slade Wilson might be my guy.
In at 4, Thanos. While he may have only wiped out half the universe, Thanos is certainly a guy who destroyed the world. It's not in a literal sense, but wiping out half the population does kinda destroy the world in a more figurative sense. We see it even after 5 years later in the MCU. The world still misses half the population. Everyone lost someone, and that's the drive that causes the heroes to fight back and bring everyone back even after 5 years. I mean, the Avengers literally risked their lives traveling through the quantum realm and time in order to save everyone. Save the billions of people that Thanos destroyed, and honestly, that's why he's on this list. He destroyed the planet by destroying half of life. Sure, he was partially right and the Earth was starting to heal itself, but the people weren't, and I don't think that little bit of good that is coming from that really matters when everyone has lost someone they love. It's pretty damn insane. And not only that, but the world is also destroyed when everyone gets brought back. And while yes, the Avengers are the ones who did the whole resurrection thing, it's Thanos who made it required, who made everyone miserable, and even 5 years later, people still can't get through a date without crying. So, yeah, it's Thanos' fault.
Coming in number 3, we have Magneto, the island of Krakoa. This is what the Flying Magnet Man has pitched for years, a place where mutants can live, they can be governed by their own people, and they won't be bothered by pesky humans. Since day one, Magneto has been trying to split humans and mutants because he sees mutants as the superior race, and frankly, he's not wrong. If you can bend metal with your mind or heal from wounds in a matter of minutes, I think you're gonna be better than the average Joe. But even though this place is mostly run by the X-Men and Magneto doesn't get his wish of killing off every last human on the planet, I still think this is a compromise that he is very much happy.
Penultimately, in at number 2, Abraxas. Abraxas is in essence the embodiment of destruction in the Marvel Universe. This guy wanted to destroy the multiverse and everyone in it just for funsies. When the Galactus of the Prime Reality died, Abraxas soon began to just cut through various alternate realities. He also killed off other versions of the Galactus because, you know, he could. Abraxas used the head of one of these Galactuses. Galactus? Galacti? I actually think Galacti sounds better, because Galactus sounds like cactus. Anyway, he used this head to home in on the main continuity's Earth and to plant a mole in the form of an alternate universe version of Harold Nova, who was dead in their reality. On Earth though, Abraxas attacked the Watcher and stole half of his signature medallion. Abraxas then taunted the Fantastic Four with the inevitability of his arrival, enticing them to search for the ultimate nullifier, which he was actually looking for. The clues to the location of which were scattered among realities. The Fantastic Four actually did find the ultimate nullifier, and then Abraxas showed up and stole it from them, because that's what he wanted all along. Using this nullifier, Abraxas was going to wipe out reality, and honestly, if it worked for plot and basically the godchild that is Franklin Richards, he would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for you meddling kids and your damn sister. Finally, in at number 1, the Anti-Monitor. The Anti-Monitor is probably the most successful villain on this list, and maybe ever when it comes to destroying the world. The Anti-Monitor ended up destroying all worlds pretty much. The purpose of the Crisis on Infinite Earths event that the Anti-Monitor was created for was to get rid of the DC multiverse in the comics, and squeeze everyone down to one world. And the purpose remained largely the same for the CW crossover of the same name, even if it was also to kill off Oliver Queen. But the Anti-Monitor, while not successful in his goal of replacing that universe with the Antimatter universe, did destroy basically infinite Earths. Like, if we think about it, there are infinite Earths in that multiverse, meaning that the Anti-Monitor somehow destroyed infinity, which is frickin' nuts. In the CW crossover, he literally destroyed every single Earth, including Earth 1. So this guy, or alien, or whatever they are, ended up actually destroying infinity. Like, what does that even mean? Can we even quantify that? It should be impossible. Technically, there also should be Earths that the Anti-Monitor can't touch, because if there's one Earth that the antimatter wave hits, technically, going off the many worlds theory, there should be another Earth where the antimatter wave doesn't touch it. So forget the Flashpoint paradox, try the Anti-Monitor paradox. There you go.
Starting us off at number 10 is the Batman Gone Evil character, Prometheus. His very first appearance goes back to February 1998 in New Year's Evil, Prometheus number 1, written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Arnie Jorgensen. Prometheus's real name is still unknown, but as a child he traveled with his 2 loving criminal parents until the day they got caught red-handed and shot down in front of him by the police. From that night on, he swore to annihilate the forces of justice. And where else better to do that than the Watchtower of the Justice League? In JLA Volume 1, Issue 17, Prometheus takes over the Watchtower and easily beats down most of the Justice League by himself, including our favorite Caped Crusader, Batman. Prometheus delivers a hand-to-hand beatdown on Batman with the help of a powerful helmet that downloaded the skills of the 30 greatest martial arts masters in the world, including Batman, of course. Prometheus 1, Batman 0. Coming in at number 9 is Darkseid. Many of us have come to know Darkseid through Superman, but Darkseid is also a DC villain who not only beat Batman, but absolutely fried him to a crisp. One of the most impactful illustrations ever released by DC, and an image DC fans will never forget, is from Final Crisis issue number 6, where artist J.G. Jones illustrates an image of Superman holding a burning Batman's corpse after defeating Darkseid himself. Batman's death occurs after he decides to abandon his vow to never murder nor use firearms by announcing, "But for you, I'm making a once-in-a-lifetime exception. A gun and a bullet, Darkseid." And even though Batman gets a shot off just in time, he then gets fried by Darkseid's Omega beams, thus making Batman pay for breaking his only rule he ever made for himself. Maybe rules weren't meant to be broken. At number 8, we have a very interesting villain and a bit of a crossover for you action movie fans. At number 8, we have Predator. Yeah, that's right. You know the movie where Arnold fights the big giant alien hunter? Yeah, that guy. Dave Gibbons back in December of 1991 wrote a short 3-issue limited crossover called Batman vs. Predator, in which predators came to Earth to hunt down the Earth's most dangerous detective. In this limited series, Batman is overpowered and ultimately beat down by Predator in an attempted ambush on the extraterrestrial hunter at the Pickett's salvage junkyard. Predator overpowers the Caped Crusader and attempts to finish him off just before Batman calls his super cool Batmobile to the scene to make a slick escape. Batman didn't die this time, but he certainly took the loss and had to be nursed back to health by his caring butler Alfred before he could get back out there to set the record straight. Sorry Bats, but maybe next time you should just get to the Bat Chopper! Moving on.
And it's 7, Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash in the season premiere of The Flash Season 3 may not have obliterated the world, but he did end up destroying the world that we knew for the CW verse, and ended up changing the timeline so much that it even affected characters in other shows. In the Season 2 finale, Barry decides to go back in time to save his mother, similar to the Flashpoint storyline. However, this time, Wally is the Flash, and Barry isn't. However, he starts losing his speed and his memory of an old life, which he thinks is a bad thing. Like, bro, I would give anything to forget my trauma, are you joking? Sorry for me not understanding why you don't want to remember your parents dying, but okay. So he lets Reverse Flash go so that he can set the timeline back. However, unlike in the animated movie, Barry doesn't get stopped in the time stream. Instead, he waits until it's all played out and then boom, kills her after he was originally supposed to, creating a whole new timeline, somehow. Where Joe and Iris don't talk, Cisco's brother is dead, and John Diggle has a son named John Diggle Jr. instead of his daughter Sarah, who he had named after Sarah Lance when she died in Arrow Season 3. So he destroyed the Arrowverse timeline we knew, and that's why he's only at number 7. It's very rare for someone to actually destroy the world, because, you know, what else would there be?
At number 6, we have Talon, or should I say Talons. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the Court of Owls in the Batman universe. But in case you aren't, the Court of Owls is an ancient criminal conspiracy that has secretly controlled Gotham in the shadows for years. Most members happen to be wealthy and powerful elites of Gotham who hire highly trained assassins to kill their targets, also known as the Talons. In the new 52 series, Batman issue 6, Batman is faced off against the Court of Owls and gets trapped in a maze. Along with the mental and psychological torture they impose on Batman, one Talon comes down and stabs him through the chest and then continues to beat him to a pulp with roundhouse kicks and slicing him with a sword. Eventually, Batman does make his escape through an underground river, but barely. Still pretty cool that he got stabbed through the chest though and didn't die. I mean, you still got my respect, Batsy.
Coming in at number 5, we have Mysterio, Spider-Man Far From Home. I have to say, when Mysterio got announced as the villain for Spider-Man Far From Home, I was not really into it. I have never been a huge fan of Mysterio because all of his powers are just smoke and mirrors. I always like hard-hitting guys more, like Venom and Kraven the Hunter, but oh my god, did they ever nail that movie, and Mysterio was so well done. He is definitely one of my favorite villains in the MCU, and Spider-Man Far From Home has has one of my favorite moments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The hallway scene with the Spidey sense was perfect, showcasing how powerful the Spidey sense is and that Spider-Man has more in his tool belt than just webs and acrobatics. But when you wrap in the scene after the credits into the movie, we see that Mysterio was able to not only reveal Spider-Man's identity, but turn the whole city against him, maybe even the whole world. And this brings up the question of whether or not Mysterio was actually dead. Even if he actually died at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, he is still the one bringing down Spidey and ruining his whole life.
At number 4, we have Ra's al Ghul. Many Batman fans are well aware of this super awesome villain, but no one made this villain more popular than the incredible actor Liam Neeson, who portrayed the Batman villain in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. Ra's al Ghul and his League of Assassins are some of the toughest villains the Batman has ever faced. Why? Well, it's because Ra's al Ghul is actually one that trained Bruce Wayne and helped make him the wicked tough Batman that we all know and love today. In Batman 244, titled Batman the Demon Lives Again, atop the Al Ghul Ski Hill headquarters, Ra's faces off against Batman. Against Talia al Ghul's plea to Batman to flee, Batman gets hoisted by Ra's and throws him into a gondola lift, leaving him unconscious and covered in snow. Mega ouch. I guess you could say, Ra's al Ghul did find him. And almost killed him.
And at 3, Surtur. Surtur's purpose was to destroy the world, or I guess technically destroy Asgard, which is a world. Surtur was a significant figure in the prophecy of Ragnarok, as the one who would initiate the fall of Asgard. Seeking to prevent this prophecy though, Odin defeated Surtur thousands of years ago, like 500,000, taking the source of his power, the eternal flame, back to Asgard, and confining Surtur to his own realm, where he remained for over 5,000 years. After Odin went missing following the second Dark Elf conflict though, a weakened Surtur intended to finally start Ragnarok, only to be defeated and killed by Thor. Despite this, Thor realized that Ragnarok had to happen to stop Hela, so Loki resurrected him with the eternal flame and used him to defeat Hela and destroying Asgard. The fire demon obviously fulfilled his prophecy and destroyed Asgard along with Hela and himself in the process. At least this is realistic. At least Surtur knows that he's gonna die when he destroys the world. So I mean, like, he did actually destroy a world. Like, he destroyed one of the realms, so he fulfilled the prophecy. So hell yeah, I'm including him on this list. I love a man who's willing to go down with his cause.
Coming in at number 2, we have Bane. Ah, yes, Bane, who was born in the darkness, molded by it. Bane, born in prison to serve the life sentence of his father, trains throughout his entire life reading, physically training, and climbing the ladder to be known as the baddest inmate in the prison. The prison workers eventually take note and force Bane to become the test subject for a new drug known as Venom. Venom increases his size exponentially and ultimately makes him the ultimate rage villain. In Chuck Dixon's Batman Vengeance of Bane, we see Bane break into Wayne Manor where he squares off against Batman and beats him to an absolute pulp. Bane then completes his signature move by thrusting Batman onto his knee and breaking his back. He officially broke the Batman. Big, big, big ouch. It's stories like that that make me not want to be a superhero, because honestly, screw that. And finally, at our number 1 spot, that's right, let's all say it together, the Joker. Quite possibly the most famous villain in all of superhero history, the Joker has faced off against Batman many, many times, but none more gruesome and relentless than the fight in Scott Snyder's limited series Batman Endgame. After breaking into the Batcave, Joker takes a playful gander at all the Dark Knight's trophies and sneaks up on Alfred, the coolest butler in the world by the way, and slices his hand off. The war starts, and through the finale of this series we see the Joker absolutely gut Batman with knives, stab him in the eye with his famous calling card, and then watch Batman get impaled with the stalactites falling from the roof of the Batcave. It's pretty clear to me who comes out on top, and this is quite possibly the worst beatdown I have ever heard of anywhere.
Coming in at number 10, we have Thanos, Avengers Infinity War. I figure we could start the list off with a big one that everyone remembers. The massive build up to one of the biggest movies of all time. Avengers Infinity War was when we got to see the wonders of the Marvel Cinematic Universe come together in ways that we have never seen before in film. It was the biggest team up in movie history at that point to take on some of the greatest threats in the universe that we had ever seen. And that threat was of course the Mad Titan, a being who wanted nothing more than to rip time and space apart to bring balance to the universe. And spoiler alert, I mean you should be up to date on the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point, but Thanos is victorious in his quest to hunt down the Infinity Stones and kill off all life in the universe. Then he just goes to the garden to work on the crops and live in peace. This left the Avengers decimated, and half of them, along with half the universe, was just turned to dust. Coming in at number 9, we have Loki, Journey into Mystery. In the Journey into Mystery storyline, we have two versions of Loki. We got baby Loki, who has good in his heart. He wants to change his ways so that all the people in his life can see him as the good doer he wishes to be. But then we also have an evil elder Loki, who wants to tear down life as we know it and see the whole universe come crashing down into a state of war and terror. This all builds up to the climax, where in order to save everyone, baby Loki must sacrifice his youth and banish elder Loki. He is successful in shunning away the villain, but this forces him to be transferred into an older body complete with wrinkles, arthritis, and bad eyesight. So in a way, elder Loki won by ruining his competition. Coming in at number 8, we have Loki, Thor Ragnarok. We're doing back-to-back Lokis on this list. That should be no surprise. He is the god of mischief. He should be able to trick his way into a couple of wins along the way. Loki has been trying to get revenge on Odin for years, for centuries. Him and his dad didn't have the best relationship. I think lying about his son's heritage and then constantly having him overshadowed by his big brother is a good way to create a little animosity in the family. So it was no surprise when Loki wanted to kill Odin. Well, in Thor Ragnarok, it would seem that he got his wish. Loki put a spell on Odin, making him think that he was mortal, and in a way stripped him of his power. This had Odin wandering around the world like an old man, and through this whole process his power was slowly drained. Eventually, when Thor found out that Loki was impersonating Odin and found out where Odin was, it was too late. The god of gods had lost most of his power, and then he faded into pure energy, effectively dying. Loki got his way, and Odin was dead.
At number 7, we have the Mutant Leader. From the continuity of Earth-31, this violent and ravenous gang leader is responsible for recruiting and manipulating the youth of Gotham City to join his mutant gang based out of the Gotham City dump. The mutant leader and his gang of youngins made Gotham City's crime rate rise to an all-time high and were known as the worst criminals to take over Gotham City since the Joker. In Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, issue number 2, a much older Batman squares off one-on-one with the mutant leader where he is beaten down senselessly. Nearing the end of the fight, the mutant leader just about impales Batman with a crowbar, but not before Carrie Kelly's Robin comes to his aid just in the nick of time. Once again, Batman walks away, but not before sustaining some major damage and probably would have been pooched without Robin. He was also an old man, so I mean, come on mutant leader, respect your elders. I mean, at least give him like a Metamucil break or something.
Coming at number 6, we have SURTUR Thor Ragnarok, the fire giant who is destined to drive his sword into the heart of Asgard and bring death to the homeworld of the Asgardians. Well, he got his wish. After sitting for so long at the bottom of a fire planet, waiting for his chance to tear the world apart, it would seem that destiny was actually quite helpful. For those of you who don't know, SURTUR's helmet or face or life force thing was removed by Thor at the beginning of Thor Ragnarok. This leads to Thor bringing it back to Asgard. Later, Hela attacks, and it's very clear that she is much too powerful even for a team up of Thor and Loki. So they take SURTUR's helmet thing and throw it into the eternal flame, thus bringing him back to life stronger than ever before, and he destroys Asgard as well as Hela, and even though he saves the day, he still won.
Halfway through and in number 5, the Night King. Oh, what's that? A non-comic villain? Hell yeah it is. The Night King is in essence the big bad evil guy of Game of Thrones. Sure, there's the Game of Thrones that they're playing like chess combined with Risk, but come on, the Night King was the whole first half of the final season. The Night King was the master of the first White Walkers, having existed since the age of the first men. He was also the supreme leader of the army of the dead, because, you know, love that. The Night King was a first man who was captured by a tribe of children of the forest. Leaf, who was amongst the group, pressed a dragon glass dagger into his chest, causing his eyes to turn blue and turning him into the first of the White Walkers. However, the White Walkers soon turn on their creators and become the ruthless rulers of the land beyond the wall. Nobody believes that they exist, and those who see them rarely live to tell the tale. However, come season 8, spoiler alert for the rest of this number now, the worst of all seasons, the Night King finally makes his play on Westeros, and honestly, he should have absolutely won. If George R.R. Martin had really been writing these final scripts, the Night King would have won, and honestly I think that's probably the way that the books are gonna go when/if the final one's completed, because you know, it's George, he's gonna have the bad guy win. In this show he gets killed by Arya Stark, which should absolutely not have happened, but hey, girl power. I still wanted to see him win though. He should have won. He would have won.
Coming in at number 4, we have Green Goblin, Killing 'Em Softly. I just wrote Killing 'Em Softly as the title for this one because I'm going to pull in a couple different encounters where the Green Mean has one-up Spidey, and every time it has led to the death of someone close to him. There was the time when Peter Parker finally wanted to settle down. He decided that he and Mary Jane could start a family, and it seemed to be perfect timing because there was a clone Spider-Man running around town. That would be Ben Reilly. Ben and Peter actually became good pals. Turns out that two clones have a lot in common with each other. But not long after Ben was the official Spider-Man in town, Green Goblin took him out, and now Peter had just lost one of his closest friends. There was also the time that Green Goblin killed Gwen Stacy, who was the love of Spider-Man's life at the time. Yeah, it would seem if you're gonna get close to Spidey, the green gliding menace will kill you just so he can get a score against Spider-Man.
Coming in at number 3 is the Red Hood. After being brought back to life by the Lazarus Pit, Jason Todd faces off against the Batman in Judd Winnick's Batman Under the Red Hood. Fresh out of the Lazarus Pit, Todd seeks revenge for Batman for failing to save him from the Joker. If anyone knows Batman's weakness or fighting style better than Ra's al Ghul, it's his former partner and trusty companion turned evil. In Under the Red Hood, we find the masked Jason Todd beating Batman into submission until he stands over top of him with a loaded gun to his face and states, "You failed, Batman. You failed me." Sorry. Before Jason can get the shot off, Batman is saved by his new trusty partner, Nightwing. Once again, a close call for the Bat if it wasn't for his usual loyal companions.
Coming in at number 2, we have Baron Zemo, Captain America Civil War. The Avengers were in testy waters when everything came crashing down in Captain America Civil War. It was Baron Zemo's goal to create infighting and tear the Avengers apart, and even though he was captured at the end of the movie with his attempted suicide thwarted by Black Panther, he still was able to work his way into the heart of the Avengers and make them battle each other. There's a massive showdown with Captain America and Bucky on one side and Iron Man on the other, after Iron Man finds out that Bucky was the assassin that killed his parents, and all of this information comes to the surface thanks to Zemo. I can't really think of a better outcome of his plan. To have the two head honchos battle it out nearly to the death, half the Avengers are either on the run or arrested, and the ones that are left are just a shell of their former selves because they just had to battle their buds? Yeah, that's a win. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have all of them. Old Man Logan. The centerpiece for the comic world of Old Man Logan is one where the villains have come up as the winners so big that they take over the world. Mysterio tricks Wolverine into killing many of the X-Men. Giant Man's corpse is laid out on a mountainside. Red Skull has stripped Captain America's mask off his corpse, and mostly everyone is dead. All the heroes either work in whatever way they can to survive in the new world, or some of them have chosen to join the villains to have a slice of power, the way that Hulk has taken a piece of America. This is truly one of the darkest outcomes of the villains winning because there's no going back to the way things were. There's no magic time travel loop that will change everything for the better. The good guys have lost once and for all, and the bad guys are now the most powerful thing on the planet, and everything is run their way.